Mulk Anand is a prominent Indian author of novels, short stories, and critical essays in English, known for his realistic and sympathetic portrayal of poor in India. He is considered a founder of the English language Indian novel. The son of a coppersmith, Anand graduated with honours in 1924 from Punjab University in Lahore and pursued additional studies at the University of Cambridge and at University College in London. A major name among Indian English writers, Mulk Anand was a torchbearer of the 20th century progressive writers movement. He had drafted the first manifesto of the Literary Association. Anand is admired for his novels and short stories, which have acquired the status of classics of modern Indian English literature. They are noted for their perceptive insight into the lives of the oppressed and for their analysis of impoverishment, exploitation, and misfortune. A prolific writer, Anand first gained wide recognition for his novels Untouchable, written in 1935, and Coolie in 1936, both of which examined the problems of poverty in Indian society. Along with Raja Rao, R.K. Narayan, and Ahmad Ali, Anand is considered one of the pioneers of Indian writing in English. His works attempted to capture the social realities of British India in the language of the colonial master. He is also noted for being among the first writers to incorporate Punjabi and Hindustani idioms into English and was a recipient of the civilian honour of the Padma Bhushan. Early life and education. Born in Peshawar, Anand studied at Khalsa College, Amritsar, before moving to England. While working in a restaurant to support himself, he attended University College London as an undergraduate and later studied at Cambridge University, earning a PhD in philosophy in 1929 with a dissertation on Bertrand Russell and the English empirists. During this time, he forged friendships with members of the Bloomsbury Group. He also spent time in Geneva lecturing at the League of Nations International Committee on Intellectual Cooperation. Anand married English actress and communist Kathleen Van Gelder in 1938. They had a daughter Sushila before divorcing in 1948. Mulk Anand's literary career was launched by a family tragedy arising from the rigidity of India's caste system. His first prose essay was a response to the suicide of an aunt excommunicated by her family for sharing a meal with a Muslim woman. His first novel, Untouchable, published in 1935, is a chilling expose to the lives of India's untouchable caste. Untouchable, which captures the vernacular inventiveness of the Punjabi and Hindi idiom in English, was widely acclaimed and won Anand his reputation as India's Charles Dickens. The novel's introduction was written by his friend E. M. Forster, whom he met while working on T.S. Eliot's magazine Criterion. Forster writes, avoiding rhetoric and circumlocution, it has gone straight to the heart of its subject and purified it. Dividing his time between London and India during the 1930s and 40s, Anand was active in the Indian independence movement. While in London, he wrote propaganda on behalf of the Indian cause alongside India's future Defence Minister V.K. Krishna Menon, while trying to make a living as a novelist and journalist. At the same time, he supported left causes elsewhere and around the globe, travelling to Spain to volunteer in the Spanish Civil War, although his role in the conflict was more journalistic than military. He spent World War II working as a scriptwriter for the BBC in London, where he became a friend of George Orwell. He was also a friend of Picasso and had paintings by Picasso in his personal art collection. Anand returned to India in 1947 and continued his prodigious literary output here. His work includes poetry and essays on a wide range of subjects, as well as autobiographies, novels, and short stories. Prominent among his novels are The Village, Across the Black Waters, The Sword and the Sickle, all written in England. Coolie and the private life of an Indian prince are perhaps the most important of his works written in India. He also founded a literary magazine, Marg, and taught in various universities. During the 1970s, he worked with the International Progress Organization on the issue of cultural self awareness among nations. Anand also delivered a series of lectures on eminent Indians, including Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Rabindranath Tagore, commemorating their achievements and significance and paying special attention to their distinct brand of humanism. His 1953 novel, The Private Life of an Indian Prince, is autobiographical in the manner of the rest of his subsequent oeuvre. In 1950, Anand embarked on a project to write a 7-part autobiography titled Seven Ages of Man, of which he was only able to complete 4 parts beginning in 1951, with 7 Summers, followed by Morning Face, Confession of a Lover, and Bubble. Like much of his later work, it contains elements of his spiritual journey as he struggles to attain a higher degree of self awareness. Anand was a lifelong socialist. His novels attack various aspects of India's social structure as well as the legacy of British rule in India. They are considered important social statements as well as literary artifacts. The journey to his first novel. Once, in Virginia Woolf's drawing room, Anand was mocked by a young critic, Edward Sackville West, for trying to write a novel about a lower caste protagonist. He said superciliously, "Oh, there can be no novel about the poor. One can only laugh at the cockneys like Dickens." This unnerved me and made me feel hopeless about my confessional, said Anand about the incident. That novel turned out to be his seminal debut book, Untouchable, about the struggles and humiliations faced by a toilet cleaner named Bakha. After the rather humiliating taunt about what would come to be his first novel, Anand travelled to Ireland and met poets George Russell and W.B. Yeats. It was Russell who advised him to return to India after he had relayed the incident that occurred in Woolf's drawing room. He said, "Son, go back to Gandhi for a year. He is struggling against the rejection of outcasts. At the same time, he is fighting against imperialism. And he wrote to Gandhi on my behalf," said Anand. He also wrote to Gandhi asking if he could visit the latter. To this, Gandhi replied with a postcard saying, "Come end of March 1927. Anand had immediately left for Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad and showed a draft of The Untouchable to Gandhi. The next day, Gandhi told me, "I have looked at your novel. You seem to use big words. Harijans, sigh, moan, groan. They do not use such heavy words. Write in a simpler language and transliterate what they say," he further said. The author then rewrote the entire novel in the ashram and Gandhi approved its final draft. But 19 publishers rejected the manuscript before a small company, Lawrence and Wishart, published it in 1935. The preface by noted English novelist and Anand's friend E. M. Forster was an important factor in finally getting the novel published. "None of us is pure. We shouldn't be alive if we were. But to the straightforward, all things can become pure. And it is to the directness of his attack that Mr. Anand's success is probably due," Forster had said about the novel. Literature and language, politics and aesthetics. While deeply committed to the cause of social change, Anand was also aware of the aesthetic experience of literature and therefore very rarely did his work descend into didacticism. After Untouchable, Anand published various novels on different social issues that plagued Indian society. The British government banned one such novel, Two Leaves and a Bud. The story follows the trial of an English planter after he murdered his coolie who was trying to prevent the planter from raping his daughter. A British jury eventually acquits a planter. Anand was in London when most of his novels were published. When asked about the stark realism in his works, once he had said, I could write in the language of the people because I lived in my mother's village. Post independence, he became severely disillusioned by the direction in which the country was going, and this continued to be the key voice of criticism in his works. Anand passed away at the age of 98 on 28 September 2004 after a long battle with cancer. He has left behind a legacy of tolerance, secularism, and social justice, and the celebration of human life itself. The substance of my work is the whole of my varied experience. The theme of my work became the whole man and the whole gamut of human relationships rather than only a single part of it, wrote Anand.